great treat. I'm so excited that everybody agreed to be here for this Luthier Roundup. I'm going to keep it to a minimum. Don McFrosty, Bill Kimball, Jane Henderson, and Brian Christensen, all luthiers. They approach things differently. They approach things the same. They have the same things. They can talk better than I can, so please make them feel welcome. Thanks.
So I'm going to try to moderate here a little bit. I'm Will Kimball. I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio. Don's from Athens, Ohio. He's not too far from me. And Jane's from Asheville. Brian's in Minnesota from Nashville. Brian builds and repairs violins. Jane builds guitars and ukuleles. And then we both do mandolins. So Luthier Roundup, I think what we're going to try to do is round everybody up. We're going to visit with each person. Each person may go in a different direction, and that's going to be okay. But it's my choice. We're going to start with Jane because she's our special guest. I'm really glad she's here.
Wait, everybody's special. But okay.
So I'm kind of a fan, almost borderline stalker. I've been a little bit too stalkery with Jane, and I apologize. But I'm really glad she's here, and I'm excited to hear what she has to talk about. And I have some interesting questions for you. But do you want to talk a little bit, or we just want to start with questions, or what?
Taller.
I'm barely any taller when I stand. Vertically challenged. But anyway, my name's Jane Henderson, and I did not go to school to learn this. My dad taught me this. I learned how to do environmental law and advocate for the environment, which I don't know if anyone knows, you do not make any money doing that when you're on the good side of it. So I asked my dad to help. I was like, can I build a guitar with you and sell it so that I can pay off my school loans because they are exorbitant? And he said yes, but I'd have to come in his shop and learn. And I thought it'd be terrible, but it turned out it was just absolutely the most magical, fun time I've ever had. Getting up close with the materials I've been working so hard to try and advocate for and make sure everyone realizes that they're sacred. And I care so much about the raw materials and where they come from that my first guitar that I built was out of all local wood, and I don't always do that, but I at least try and make them thoughtfully harvested or reclaimed or something along those lines. But yeah, okay, fine. That very first one was Brazilian rosewood, but the first one with my name on it was all local. But yeah, I think 12 years later, 14 years later, now I do this full time. I love it so much, and I feel like I can still be an advocate for the environment because I do work mainly in local materials or things that have been thoughtfully harvested, and at least I encourage my clients to consider them, like when we're building something. And if I can use scraps, I will and do. The tree in the tree. My dad was building a guitar, and I found this in my drawer, just like a little extra cut off of the tree, so I put it on my headstock. But I'm happy to discuss whatever you guys want to talk about. But
So if it's okay with y'all, I'll ask Jane a couple questions. And then we'll open it up and y'all can ask questions, and then we'll kind of go around and maybe we'll have chances to contribute with each other. But one question I had for you, I'm going to sit down. One question I had for you, we talked about this a little bit, but I really admire your inlay work. And I thought maybe you could talk about your perspective on that, how you enjoy connecting with it sounded like you use that as a tool to connect with your customer and personalize the instrument.
I do.
And I think that's really neat. And so
yeah, I'll happily tell you about that. I think, so for me, I don't come at this like a player would. My dad started because he wanted a guitar to play, and he couldn't afford a Martin, and he figured he could just build one because it's wood, and he had a pocket knife. So that's where he started. I started with, I have these hands and I want to make something beautiful, but it was more the art and the connection with others that really struck me. It's like I love the tangible thing, but I love building something beautiful and special for somebody. And so I'm not going to be able to make this like a factory or a big production because and I can't have a deal, like it's so important to me to connect with each of my clients. And one of the ways is through my inlay work, because I've done all kinds of things, but I love the artistry in it. It's not necessarily going to affect the sound of the instrument, and you can have it or not, it really doesn't matter. It's just completely aesthetic, and I think that's something that I resonate with. Because it's not, it doesn't have to be just so for the sound. It just has to be beautiful and bring someone joy. And so that's the reason I love it, I think, so much, is just that I get to take something personal from someone and make them feel really happy that way. I've done, my friend has a dog that's not around anymore, named Scooter. I inlaid, he was a border collie, I inlaid him, and Dee Dee, a friend's goat. And I've done, oh my gosh, a bunch of animals. I did Charlotte, my friend had an iguana, and she was right up on the fingerboard right there. And he dressed her up. My friend John dressed her up for every holiday. Like, she had a little hat. Anyway, it made me so happy. I've done paw prints. I've done all kinds of just things or something that'll represent a family member, or something that someone just wants to think of and remember while they're sharing their joy, but also the music that they're gonna provide for people gives more happiness. And just, that's what I like to think of, is that I hope I can like start a ripple of happiness.
So you mostly build custom order?
Yeah, I pretty much, occasionally I'll do a spec. This one's just my personal ukulele, because, and if you come look closely, it was sort of a challenge to myself. Can I inlay copper? Let's see. And it looked kind of Gatsby, really Art Deco straight lines, which I've never done. Most everything is, Baroque swirls, things, flowers, which are great and fun, but that was just a new concept that I was thinking would be a fun thing to do.
You still doing color?
Yes.
How do you get it?
This one?
No, color. It's hard to get.
It is. Okay, so what happened was I have friends. I made friends this one time. I got an email from a guy in Kauai, and he said, "Hi, I'm the surgeon on Kauai." I'm like, great. And he goes, "If I pay you, I'm retiring, and I have a group of ukulele builders out here, and we meet every February for just like a little meeting. If I paid you to come out here and you could stay for 8 days, I'll give you a car, a place to stay.
Oh my gosh.
Would you teach us 2 days of inlay?" And I was like, in February? I'm like, is this a trick question? So I did that. And then, and I met Paul, and I believe he gave me this one. Or then I met at that retreat that they do with all their little Hawaii friends. I did another one. I met other builders, and then they asked me to come and do another inlay class on Maui. The next year we went back, and then Edmund is like the Wayne Henderson of Maui, and he's like, you walk in his shop and it's just stock full of all the wood, and he would just, we tried to drive the road to Hana, but he would lurch. I was so sick. He would like lurch to a stop and like, "You see back in there?" I cut some koa from right there this one time, because he used to work for the Department of Transportation in Hawaii, and so he would just, when a felled tree would come down, he would take it and saw it and harvest it. And so he had and he never sells it. He refuses. It's like, I won't sell my wood, but I'll give it. And every now and again, he'll just send me a chunk, like some wood, and say, "Here, from your Hawaii uncles."
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's really
So honestly, a lot of this, I don't seek it out. It's just, I get a lot from people hearing that I like local wood, or I have a prized tree, a walnut tree that somebody in South Carolina, they grew like walnuts that came from, or I get like they would I don't know how you enter those in a fair, but they would win prizes at the fair. But that tree got struck by lightning, and they were so sad, so they brought it up. They brought it to my dad, to be fair, but they were too small. The pieces were too small to use for a guitar. But I made several guitars or ukuleles, and they were beautiful and sounded good. And that way, you know, that tree could
It lives on.
Yeah, as we were saying earlier. Anyway, that in death they keep going, they keep living. So that was really special. So pretty much I've got to build. I'll talk too long if I start talking about all of it.
We love it. Don't worry, you're doing fine.
I get really excited about it, so I'll try and not. But I do love the procurement of wood is usually very organic. I don't really seek it out, but all of it comes with a special story.
Fun with you.
Usually, yes.
So I'm sort of embarrassed to admit this, but I don't know a lot about ukuleles.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm this big, and my hands are this big, and that's the main vehicle as to why the driving force for that. Mostly, I love smaller body guitars. All of the ones that I connect with. You know, I feel like in this room, everyone sitting here has probably connected with an instrument more with one than another one. You try an instrument, you try a mandolin, it feels good, it's cool, but every now and again you meet like a soulmate that wants to sing with you, that wants to be your partner in whatever instrument or whatever music you're playing. And I think I always would gravitate towards the small ones, mostly because I could get my arms around them. And that's sort of where it started. My dad has a 21, is it 27? It's an odd number. I don't like that about it, but it's a single 045, a Martin,
Wow, okay.
a 27, I think. So I remember being bummed that it wasn't an even number. In any event, it's this. I love it so much, and I've copied that specific one. But I go and I connected with it. It's my friend, you know. So I just sort of appreciate that. And my dad there are so many. I can just throw a rock, maybe now, and I can find you somebody who will make you a D40 or a D18, like anybody. That's a thing that people love. And bluegrass, I don't resonate that much with bluegrass music either. Like, it's fine, but I'm not Wayne.
Right.
And that's, you know, there are great builders who do that, but I've wanted to sort of again, pun intended, carve out my own little niche of something I love. And that way, kind of everybody wins.
Have you built that off the L00 pattern?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I have, yep. One lives in Nashville.
Ever got to play your guitars?
Oh, I'm so bummed. I should have brought one. I have one.
Let's talk about the lead guitar.
Okay, so because I want to give you guys a chance to talk to.
We got time.
Okay.
They know us.
Okay. So how many are from around here? Not many. Okay, but you know what happened to us a year ago.
I was going to ask you, and I think he beat me to it.
It was not good, and we're still having difficulty. I drive past. I mean, one street from my house was completely washed away, and it's still just a hole, and it's hard to see. But I have several friends. We're all builders, and I just was thinking, like, what can I do to bring light to this? What can I do to help me heal? I know everyone is having difficulty with that around here, but I wanted it's like, how can I challenge myself to build something? Maybe I can make something and raffle it. Maybe, I have a lot of builder friends. I wonder if they'd like to help me. And so I asked a couple of my closest friends, and they agreed to work on a guitar with me that's made out of wood that fell. And my friend from college heard me talk to Laura Businger on the radio, and I was just telling her this dream that I wished I could do this, and my friend from college heard it and called me and said, hey, I bought a mill, and I've been harvesting all of this wood. I've been getting it before the Department of Transportation comes and turns it into mulch, and if you want it, it's yours. I've got all kinds. So my friend Kyle and we went out and picked our favorite wood sets that we that we could find that was like, oh, that'd be a beautiful one. Oh, it's all it's just exactly what you need to make a great instrument. And we cut it and got it kiln dried. We took it to a guy and he did his best. But only one piece was dry enough, really, like truly. I broke my dad's humongous Hitachi resaw and also his saw stop. That oak was still quite wet, but anyway, it's fixed now. But we got that one board, so I had to make sort of a wide back strip, but it's a beautiful oak guitar with a red spruce top that my friend Jackson got from White Top, which is really close to where my dad lives. And everyone just was happy to help me and happy to give their time, give their materials that they went out and harvested and dried themselves. And it felt so good to get that community bit back, because right after the storm, while it was so scary, I loved seeing everybody step up. They tried, we all were happy and willing to give anything that we had to help and get everybody on equal footing. I loved it. I loved seeing that, and I was thinking, well, how can I get that part back? I don't want the flood part back and the disaster and the horrifying, like, scary bits, but that part, I wonder if we can. And so I built this guitar, which I meant to bring, but it's at Dream Guitars right now, being photographed, and we will be raffling it, and the proceeds will go to, Leaf is sponsoring it, but then all the proceeds will go to the Artist Relief Fund that Leaf has.
Are you
Which,
sending out a link to everybody?
yeah, as soon as we
Send
get
out
that
all
stuff.
information, it'll
Bravo.
be shared.
Yeah, as soon
Yep.
as we get it figured out. But honestly, it was just the process of being able to do that with my friends, and it was pretty cool. Have any of you guys ever built something with somebody else? Or do you just sit in your basements like me, just like work alone?
I work with a friend.
You do? Okay.
Yeah, and I like doing that.
Yeah.
I've been able to collaborate a little bit, almost, but not as much as I would like, honestly.
Yeah, I think
I've had apprentices.
apprentices.
And I have a grandson working.
Okay. Well, there you go. But I feel like I've worked with my dad, but it's not the same as like a peer. And we approach things differently, which I thought was interesting, where, I'm like, let me come see how you do that. Honestly, it validated my skills. It made me feel good. Like, oh, you're this fancy, like, well-trained, been to school guitar builder, and we do this like similarly. Cool, good for me. Good job, Daddy. But so that I think was really special. But I'm sad I don't have it. I also, the fingerboard, if you'd like to see it, I will show you pictures. The fingerboard is 5 different local woods that looks like mountains, or if you tip it, looks like a river. Whatever you like.
I have a part 2 to that question.
Okay.
So you're local.
Yes.
What woods are you using, local woods, for the ones that you're making?
So I make oak guitars a lot. The
Yeah.
first guitar I made out of oak was in 2012 because it was for Doc Watson, but he passed away a couple weeks before I got it finished. He had felt the body and tapped and knew that it was happening. He told everybody at the last Merle Fest he was at. I was like, I finally, just like maybe last year, saw that there was a recording of him talking about it.
Oh.
But anyway, on his last performance on Sunday.
Oh.
And that was special. But yeah,
Yeah, MDV played that last show with them.
yep, that was cool. But anyway, yeah, so I've been doing oak. I've tried several. Walnut is great. I love walnut. It's similar to mahogany, has like similar properties, but oak is very similar to more hardwoods, exotics. Brazilian is sort of in a league of its own, but other rosewoods, it has the same density. And they make great guitars, just the pores are difficult, but
Thank you.
yeah.
Well, let's talk to some other
Yeah.
people, and then we'll open up for general questions. I know Brian worked for a long time at the violin shop in Nashville. Great player, and he's recently moved to Minnesota, and he's sort of changing from more of a repair situation to more of a building situation. And I'm going to let him talk a little bit until he clams up, and then we'll ask him any questions.
Should take a couple of minutes. So. Yeah, I worked at the violin shop in Nashville. I started there in 2000 and had my own shop for a number of years, and but still a good relationship with the violin shop. Fred Carpenter. Some of you, I know probably several of you know the shop. So I primarily did for years and years and years setup, restorations, regraduating instruments, putting new bass bars, resetting necks. So I'm coming from this from for years I wanted to. I kept telling myself I want to build violins, and what happens is after an 8-hour day of repairing them, you no longer want to look at them. so that didn't exactly happen. I had a couple spurts where I would get back on the wagon and try to get stuff done, but since I moved back to Minnesota, I've had more time to dedicate to building. I'm still quite busy doing repair, but getting more into violin making or fiddle making, because I'm really trying to kind of go for more of a I'm a fiddle player, and nothing against violinists, but I love fiddle music, and that's what I want my instruments to sound like. I have that sound in my head, and I've held and worked on some pretty important instruments that not value wise necessarily, but as far as in terms of fiddlers, like Kenny Baker's fiddle, Vassar Clements, got to do little things on some of these instruments over the years, so I love the fiddle period, playing music, fixing them, repairing them, and now building them. So that's
Do you have any formal training, like certificate?
I did go to a repair school in Red Wing, Minnesota.
Okay, I've heard of Red Wing.
Yeah, and we did have some making there at the time. Actually, now the school has it's more split between making and repair, but it's amazing. They cram this in 1 year, so it's intense. And at the time I went there, it was just focused on repair, and then we had a little summer course to where we started an instrument. So,
could you talk about what makes a good fiddle versus a good violin?
It's honestly, it's a lot of the same principles that make a good violin make a good fiddle. It's just a lot of the setup work that goes into making a violin project. Because when we think of violins, are very old historically. A lot of those instruments were meant to fill concert halls, right? So a fiddle setup is a little bit different, I would say. Most of the time, most fiddle players like steel strings. Violinists, for the most part, do not. Along with steel strings comes a little lower action for a quicker, faster response with a little less effort for a fiddler. Fiddlers also tend to like things that are a little darker sounding, that necessarily, they won't necessarily project and fill a concert hall, but you put a mic in front of them and that thing will just eat a mic. I mean, they sound great. So a lot of it's a lot of the same principles, the thicknesses, the densities of the wood. A lot of it's the same, but it really, when it gets to fiddle, they're looking for something a little darker, warmer, and set up well.
You mess with bows any?
I rehair them.
Okay.
Yeah, and I try not to do too many.
I call them the magic wand.
Yeah.
Do you mess with the magic wand?
I mess with the magic wand occasionally. Yeah, no, a friend of mine, Tyler Andall, that I used to work with at the shop, he is a good bow maker, and he keeps telling me, he's like, you need to come down and make a bow. So maybe I will sometime with him, but yeah, it's a different skill set.
Yeah. I've always been interested in.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've always been interested in this idea right here, which is a very old.
Yeah.
Walnut.
That's walnut. Yeah, that was from my wife's grandpa's farm.
So this is what you would call an inside mold, and you'd put the blocks here, and then you bend the rim to it, and then at some point you break it out off of this or
Yeah,
whatever.
it's super exciting.
But we use an outer mold. Do you use an outer mold? I use an outer mold.
And
and
some
it-
violins were done that way too.
Okay,
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
But I've always thought about trying to adapt this to mandolin building, and I've never tried it. But I'd like to. But maybe this will re-inspire me seeing this piece, just to think about it. But
What do you use?
For
Inside or outside?
I use this
yeah,
inside.
this is
Okay.
inside.
Yeah.
So you can clamp, right? You know.
Yeah.
Yep, you get your blocks in there, and and you glue them in, and then you carve them away
I
to fit
use
the arch.
an inner mold for A's, outer mold for S.
Okay. Okay. Now we're getting somewhere. This is the good stuff, y'all. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about anything you brought?
I just brought one that this is number one.
Wow. Okay.
So it's a spirit varnish, not oil and French polish. I got a little heavy-handed on the antiquing on the back.
Can we hear it?
Sure. Yeah. It needs to be played more. We all have our favorite instruments, and you think I'd be more excited about playing my own, but I have an old German fiddle that I absolutely love the sound of.
That's the one that you connect with.
Yep.
Can't help that.
You can't help.
German fiddle to build your own instruments?
No, this is modeled after a Stradivarius, like a 1714. I can't remember the what it's considered, like kind of the golden period of a Strad, but they all have specific names. I think Stradivarius had, even within that time period, 2 or 3 different molds he was using. So.
Yeah, man.
So, are there fiddles that have not an F hole?
They're mostly F-holes, but there was a French, and there's probably other things too.
Well, it's just, like in the ukulele or
Yeah.
guitar world, there's sound ports freaking everywhere, and everything's different. So I just wonder, I haven't seen a lot of variation.
There's typically not. There was a French violin designed by a guy named Chanot that to where it was a guitar-shaped violin, cornerless. So it kind of did this, and then and it was really elegant the way that they did it, and so the F holes were just kind of like curved around the guitar shape at the edge. But
I've taken some inspiration from those fiddles that Daryl Anchor's play.
Oh yeah, and that I can't
really
think of that.
cool. And if y'all haven't seen them, take a minute and go look at Daryl Anchor, what he's playing. These real modern looking fiddles.
Yes, and I can't think of the maker's name, but that's real different designs with the F holes on that, and the scroll and the pegs and everything. It's very kind of art deco. Anyway, that is that, and then if anybody wants to see this one, is a little bit more refined than number one. So at least I think it is. But this is. I can show you this. I haven't fastened the top yet, but it's ready to go on.
Say those rubber bands are gonna do a good job.
Yeah.
Really add to the.
Yeah.
We'll circle back around to Brian when we open up for questions. If you'll indulge me, when I was a young person, I got an undergrad in music. And after about 5 years of not being able to get a job, I went back to school and got an MBA. And I had seen in a trade magazine, Gibson wanted to hire a marketing manager, MBA required. So that was my dream. well, I'll be the only person in the world with an MBA and a music degree, and I'll get some cool nebulous music job, okay? And so as the years go by, I end up meeting, is it Hostetler or Hostetler?
Jay Hostetler.
So I ended up meeting Jay Hostetler, who was a really wonderful dude. He was the president of Stuart McDonald at the time, I think, wasn't he? And he's since retired. And he was a really nice guy. He and I hit it off. And so not only has Don gotten better and better to where I just couldn't believe it from the early months of yours that I saw. And I mean that in the nicest way. We've all gotten
We've
better.
talked about our early ones.
But oh my goodness, he's gotten so much better. But in the last 10 years or so, I think this work that he's put in has also made him one of the experts on these old Gibsons. And I think he's a little reluctant to take that responsibility. But I'm going to tell you, he knows really a lot about these old mandolins. And so this is Don. He's going to talk about whatever he wants to, but he's going to show us how his deflection testing setup works. And this is very sophisticated and has influenced a lot of people. And so I hope you'll take the time to listen to Don. So welcome, Don.
Guys, I got my first guitar in high school, and I didn't play right. I had to tweak it. I had to move the nut or do something to make it please my ears. And I've kind of been doing that the rest of my life. A few years later, I got a 4-string banjo and put a 5th pedal because everybody's playing 5-string banjos. So I've done those kind of tinkery things all along, and that was in the 60s. And that would have been folk boom time. And I was in the South, deep South, Florida, North Georgia, North Florida. And so I wasn't really exposed to bluegrass that early. So it's folk music, but instruments all the same. And I kept playing, thinking I was going to play, but that never worked out. But in the 70s, I got the bug to build. A friend of mine was building Nelsons. You can build these things? It's like, I thought they came out of factories. You got the names on the instruments you see in the stores. They're all factory. So that got me started building. I started building in the early 70s with there was no information. There was nobody else around doing it, or very few people. Nobody was fine. But I worked my way through that, and later on in the 70s, I went over. Stuart McDonald was in Athens, Ohio, where I lived. I went over to there, over to them, and see if there was anything I could do, and they put me on right away. And so I worked with them for 40 years, close to 40 years, and I kept continuing to build mandolins on the side and trying to get better. And of course, my association with them helped me know what good instruments were. They were making.
We assume everybody knows who Stuart McDonald is, but Stuart McDonald is the largest, best source of luthier tools and supplies. I just wanted to say that
Absolutely.
we assume we know Stuart McDonald, but maybe not everybody knows who Stuart McDonald is.
Said that. Yeah, so Stuart McDonald, mail order, they were mail order, internet now. But, you could buy anything, tools, finishing material, woods, tuners, parts, just anything you needed to build. Start out banjos. They started out doing kit banjos, and then they expanded to guitars, mandolins, and then guitars. And so my position there, fairly early on, was designing stuff, tooling. Early on, we did a mandolin kit, an A model mandolin kit, and then we did 3-ply banjo rims. The early banjos had 3-ply rims, and then that fell out of use, and they were multi-ply, 10 or 15-ply laminated rims. So Stuart wanted to make that. So along with other people, we built machinery to make 3-ply rims. We got a hold of Irving Sloan, or Irving Sloan got a hold of us. He had a patent on the threaded bushing for his classical tuners, and he wanted someone to make them. He designed them, he was making them for a while, and he wanted someone else to make them. So we visited Irving, went over everything, and brought Sloan tuners to Athens. And with that patent, we decided to do the Waverly tuners. Stewart had bought the Waverly name at an auction somewhere, and Waverly went out of business. He got the name and some other tools. But anyway, Waverly tuners is part of that. And then all the tools, Dan Earlywine came on and had all these ideas for guitar repair and building tools. And I was in charge of R&D, or product development. So these ideas came into the shop, and a team of people built and refined prototypes and that. So that was my background with Stuart McDonald for 40 years. During all of that time, I was building mandolins in the evenings and weekends. So I continued building mandolins and learning more about the instruments and the better ones, and changing my process.
Don's mandolins are called Red Diamond. And I've never asked you why you called it Red Diamond.
Red Diamond. The Stradivarius violins have become named over time. A lot of times they were named after the owner. Other names, the Messiah was one that was never played. Really, it was a museum piece. But I think Stradivarius considered that the peak of his. So the Messiah was another name. There was a mandolin called the Red Diamond. I'm not sure why it was called the Red Diamond, but there was a Stradivarius violin named the Red Diamond, and I thought, cool, I like that name. And at the time, some of the builders were building mandolins and putting the Gibson and the Pagan, and I never did. But Red Diamond kind of looked like that. Right? So that was another little influence. So anyway, that's how I came to the name. But it was the Stradivarius violin. And yeah, so I really got into building mandolins in the early 70s. And like he said, it was each mandolin was, I liked it, but I could do better. In every batch, I would do something to try and make it better, either the process or the microphone. And anytime I would listen from people having ideas, if it sounded like good, I would try it. And I've tried things. And one thing I've thought that there's something that might make a difference, and I've heard this. Let's take high glue, for instance. High glue dries crystalline hard. It's a crystalline structure that you have to take a metal tool and crush it to a powder. But it's hard. Whereas the modern glues, aliphatic resins, modern glues are always still slightly liquid. They're still a plastic. They're not that solid. And so there was talk around the Lutheran community that crystalline bond did something to the tone. And yes, it could have done a little, and you might not have been able to hear it. But you do that, and you do varnish as opposed to lacquer, and you do a lot of other different things. And I can't even think of all the different things that I've incorporated over the years.
A lifetime.
But you do 20 or 30 things that make a little difference, and then the whole, the entire thing makes a noticeable difference. So that's been my chase throughout time. And so some of the things.
But add on top of that the work that he's done with deflection testing. So he's arrived at all these things that made his instruments really good, and then at that point you redoubled your efforts to study the old Gibsons.
Right.
And incorporate that into your instruments.
Well, you and I have talked about this when we started out building, at least for me, and you might have had the same thought, is that Laura was with Gibson for 2 years, a little over 2 years, signing instruments anyway. And I always figured that if he had been there 10 or 15 or 20 years, he would have changed things, grown, and gotten better, whatever you want to say. And so I was always thinking I could do better. And so I was, in the early days, I was trying to do things different. Drill out blocks so they were hollow and lighter weight, the point blocks and the neck block, and just doing a lot of little things to make it better. And then it, probably a little over 20 years ago, after being around bands, listening to the whole of a band and how the mandolins worked in a band, I would hear that the bands that had a player that played lures, that mandolin would pierce out to the, out into the audience, to the back of the room, the back of the field. And they weren't standing that close to the mic. People with good mandolins, modern built, had to get right up in the mic to get it to push out the waves. I said, what is going on there? So that's when I contacted a mandolin player, or a player in Ohio who had a couple of lures. He came over and I measured them. And I measured them for flexibility because years before that, 10 years before that, when building my own, trying to tap and realize the subtleties of that, of what note it was ringing out. Well, it was some sense off. It wasn't dead on. There's trying to figure out the frequency. So I just went to flexibility. So I started building mandolins, testing how flexible the top is and how flexible the back is. And when I built a mandolin that I really liked, other players around me said, "Yeah, that's the one." Then I would build using that same flexibility in the future mandolins, and I got real consistent. I could build a mandolin that sounded like the last one, very close. So back to early 2000s, Brian Aldrich lived in Dayton, had a couple lures that brought him over, and we tested them. So instead of testing my own mandolins, I tested some lures for flexibility, and it was quite a bit difference in what I was doing. So then I built a dozen instruments like that with his average of the lures he had brought to me. And then I thought, what if I get a really good one that has a reputation? So I contacted David Grissom. He had an instrument called Crusher, and everybody, he had these recordings. And so he said, sure, let's do it. So he was in Ohio. He gave it to me. He said, bring it back tomorrow. And, so I put it on the machine and tested the flexibility of the R machine and everything like that. And I thought, okay, let's treat this as strictly mechanical. No mystery, no magic. Let's just mechanically reproduce dimensions, flexibility, everything we can, neck pitch, neck size, all of that. And that's the track I've been on for the last 20, 25 years.
There's a lot of mythology, I'll call it mythology, about tap tuning, plates to notes, the box to notes, tapping this, listen to this. And I remember Lynn Hubachel telling me, we can't know what they did, but we can measure what they did. And I think that's what you've done.
You can't know how they did it.
Right, let's eliminate the mythology and let's measure what's actually there. And I think that's so smart. And I think chasing the mythology doesn't make any sense. And as we've talked about, there's the sum of the components is so complex that whatever you think you're gleaning out of the top or the back, it all changes when it's all together. It all changes when you've got your neck at a different angle. So anyway, I just wanted to talk about how different his approach is than the mythology that's been passed on for the last 30 years.
Yeah, so I've been building for 30 years, strictly flexible. No tapping, no, musical noting, no,